I actually was a prefect, but it was more of an aspirational prefect role. Like, it was, well, we newly went from a school that finished in year 10 to then include year 11 and 12.
Right.
And I was one of the few guys that went to year 11 and 12, and I got offered to be a prefect, and I think it was just aspirational, like, you'll grow into this. And because I was a punk before, but
right.
but it was never a prefect in year 10, which is when you normally had that in Ireland. So
year 10, because you kind of back end of year 11, isn't it? That's when you get announced in Sydney schools.
And then it's official year 12.
Yeah, it just wasn't heaps commonplace to have, like, we called it lower sixth and upper sixth. Like, that wasn't common.
It was a sixth form, isn't it?
A sixth form, yeah.
That's so interesting. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch podcast.
We've got badges. That's why we were having that conversation.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like a prefect.
Prefect badges. That's where we've started at.
That's how we started.
What a lovely setting we have here, Ethan.
It's gorgeous. I would recommend, if you're just listening to this and listening to my husky voice as it slowly fades, if you're listening to this, go on YouTube and watch it, because we're in a lovely field.
It's gorgeous.
There are, right behind the camera, there's 3 cows just hanging out.
And we're all squinting like pirates.
Because the sun is like right there.
It's bright.
And that was my fault. We could have put us in a slightly different spot. And I didn't realize until I sat down.
But it's awesome. Cows make me happy. It's pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah,
well, the reason we are here is because we are on Week Away down here at Watersley. We can see what do we call that campsite up on the hill? The conference centre?
Sure.
Yeah.
Watersley.
Sure. Watersley, we'll stick with that. There's cars driving past. You'll hear bird sounds while we're recording on this podcast. Hudson's standing behind the camera, or sitting behind the camera. He might make some noises. We'll see. Here we are on the Chip Lunch podcast. And the reason, first of all, we should welcome Lee.
We should. Hello, Lee.
Hello,
welcome.
Lee.
G'day.
Welcome back.
Good. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back in the hood.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Back in the hood.
Yeah,
that's because you were on this podcast again because, oh, look, there goes Hudson's dad in his beautiful red MX-5.
They can't see the cars.
Yeah,
can't comment on the things they can't
I'm commenting
see.
on what's going past to keep people, like we were just doing the previous episode of Week Away Drive Companion.
Of course.
Lee is on the podcast because he's doing the Bible Talks at Week Away this year, and I'll reserve my judgment for myself, but they were fantastic.
They've been fabulous.
Yeah.
It's been so we're part of the way through. At the moment.
Yeah, correct.
But I'm sure when this comes out, we will be reflecting on how excellent that they were, because the first 3, first 3 have been great.
Yeah,
awesome. 3. Well,
we were just discussing
looking forward to the next 2.
Was it Sunday? It was Sunday? Yesterday's. Yeah, that would be Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That one really impacted me. That was really cool. So we can. I'm sure we'll touch on to that.
Yeah.
Something that I noticed about your today's one, which was the Monday, is that Lee put on this excellent slide that was really helpfully showcasing what his points were, and I was thinking to myself, it's a really it's a really good slide when half the people have got their phones up and they're taking photos of it. I thought that was great.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's not the goal of a good sermon, but
no.
There's a little bit of affirmation that comes there if you've thought about design and whatever. It's like, that's cool. That's good. Although I'm going to change it for tomorrow. There's a few things I think that's missing from it. But
excellent.
Oh, okay. Well,
we will find out. If you're listening to this and you were a week away, you will have by now already found out. But
Chip Lunch always starts with chip preferences.
Yes.
And if we do get a recurring guest or a previous guest to come back on, we ask them, has your chip preferences changed since the last time? But to be honest, I haven't listened to your episode in a couple of years.
I can't quite remember, but I probably would have said something like, chips in the UK and Ireland are way more superior than in Australia.
I do remember.
And that's partly potatoes. To do with the fact that we have Morris Piper potatoes, and my preferences haven't changed. In fact, they've been reinforced because, this is awesome, there is a British chip shop in Burley up on the Gold Coast that's run by a Scottish guy, and he makes proper chips.
Excellent.
Morris Pipers, I think, or at least equivalent. They are crispy, they're full, they're fat, they're salty, They are awesome.
Amazing.
That's cool that you found that.
Yeah, I actually had some the other day before we came down.
Oh,
I thought they were closed, and then I discovered that they actually hadn't closed down. And
really,
we were like, yeah, let's get some chips.
He's got to keep him in business, these guys.
Yeah. There are plenty of British people up in the Gold Coast who do the pilgrimage to that chip shop, I think. So
feels like home.
Yeah. So hot chip preference has not changed.
Okay. And we've obviously heard the story about how you became a Christian on your last podcast.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to ask you was, with these kind of Bible talks, what I'm fascinated is what is your preparation for something like this? Have you done it before, or is this the first time you've done talks like this?
No, it's not the first time. I've spoken at quite a few different like weekends away and things where you're packaging 4 or 5 talks together. Process, I'm not. I like process, but I struggle to do the same thing the same way over and over again. So sometimes it changes, but I think for something like this, it's a little bit like prepping a full sermon series. Like you're thinking about what is it, like what would be the best thing for this group of people that will help them to love and know Jesus more and actually stir the affections in their hearts in such a way that it would bring about real life transformation by the Spirit through the Word. And I always start with that in my head. It's like, I want Jesus to be glorified. That's what everybody does when they're preaching, right? But then it's starting to think about how do you like obviously this one, it's a series that we're thinking through sanctification, what it is, how that plays out in the Christian life. So that's a little bit trickier. Sometimes it's easier if you're just looking at a book.
Yeah.
Straight up, because you know what you're doing. You're going Ephesians 1, Ephesians 2, Ephesians 3, and you follow the themes there.
Which we have done at Weekway before.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. But as I've just been thinking about, and bubbling a number of thoughts over many years for Christians, like this series really sprung out of a lot of the angst that I've seen, particularly within our tribe of Christians, where, like when we had Planted Establish, hearing a lot of the younger crew going, we want more of the Spirit. Like there was that real hunger and desire to grow, but either a mistrust or a misunderstanding in terms of what that looked like and how it actually came about, and it just led to a whole heap of angst. So, and I'm still seeing that. So I started there, but the goal is not just to address the itch, but to kind of help shine a light on Jesus and how the gospel speaks into that. Yeah.
Just on that, sorry.
Yeah.
You said that you see the younger crew saying they wanted more Spirit. Is that why you said? I think it was today you said you want so you've heard people say I wanted more Spirit,
more of the Spirit.
But what did you say? Jesus isn't Lord for you. Like you want more Spirit, but I can't remember how you said it.
Yeah. Like there were two things. Like I think sometimes we want more of the Spirit in our lives, but we're not willing to have less sin. And you get that contrast. Like it's not fully a like for like, but in Ephesians, Paul contrasts like being drunk with wine with being filled with the Spirit, and it seems to me that when we live lives where we are full of sin or we don't put sin to death in our lives, that we experience less of our communion with God through the Spirit. So I think there's that, but then also as well, like if we want more of the Spirit, we need more of Scripture in our lives, because it's the Spirit that shines a light on the truth of Scripture. And as we fill our hearts, like we fill our heads, our minds are renewed, our hearts are filled, our affections are stirred, and I think that's one of the ways that we become more filled with the Spirit of God, when we're filled with the Scripture of God. There's more to it than that, but I think it starts there. Yeah.
Ethan, did you have a point?
Oh, just that you get to dive deep into one topic, and I'm sure there's heaps of different takeaways you want from each talk or from whatever.
Yeah.
But is there something overarching that you would hope that we have had come away with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's I think it really is in that first talk, grasping what our position is before God. because I really do believe that when we grasp that it will help us to, by grace, through the Spirit, to actually walk that out more and more in our lives, and allow that to permeate that identity to permeate every area of our lives. So I want people to grasp and get a hold of grace, and get a hold of the beauty and the magnificence of Jesus, because I think when we struggle with our sin, we can often navel gaze, and that can become the focus. Whereas if we lift our eyes to Jesus and see his goodness, then I think that helps us so much more to run by grace. Now, that sounds very simplistic, and in many ways it is, just for the sake of keeping it short, but it's actually no less than that, I don't think. So.
Yeah, someone in our discussion group called it like the inward turn, like the looking inside yourself. And I wanted to see if do you think there's a connection between the fact that we perhaps feel overrun by a sin because we have this inward turn, but you also mentioned the angst, and I like Mark Sayers' book called A Non-Anxious Presence, and Tim really has been great on the Shock Absorber talking about that too, going like, how do we have a non-anxious presence to things that are anxiety-inducing in the world? Do you think there's a link between those two things, like the inward turn / the increase in an anxious presence?
Yeah, totally. I actually think the times that I am more anxious in my everyday life, like not just anxious about my own eternal security, but just more anxious in general, is when sin is more besetting and prevalent in my life. And I think part of that is that we live such quick and hurried lives as well. And part of, I know that for me, part of the way that sin works out in my life is it's easy for me to overwork and to not rest in the Lord. And I think we live such busy, fast-paced lives that we barely hit the pause button to rest in the Lord and actually truly express that he is God and we're not. And a lot of that is driven by a sin of pride. It's driven by a sin of wanting more and always striving and struggling to either make a name for ourselves, and there's a lot of true and real needs in that, because like a sin is often a good thing that's just been warped and it's been put in a different place, like it's been elevated beyond other things in our life, and yes, I think there absolutely is a connection there, 100%. Yeah.
What do you think it looks like to truly rest in the Lord? Like,
it looks like being in heaven. Like legit. Ultimately, I think that true rest we will get when we ultimately are with God and we are resting in him in its fullness. But I think we can get glimpses of that, and we sometimes throw the baby out with the bathwater and we say that we'll rest when we get to heaven. Like that's what happens then. But actually no, like we're told, we're given things like the Sabbath for the man, like for us as a gift and as something to help us both express and experience what it is to rest in the Lord in the here and now, rather than just in the eternity to come. And I think what that looks like is peace, right? Like, so Paul, now I don't think it's forever present. There's always things that press in on that, but Paul in Philippians, when he talks about presenting all of our anxieties towards the Lord, and he doesn't say that the things of this world that cause us anxiety will be removed, but we're promised that the peace of God will be upon us, that we have a peace that surpasses all understanding. And I think what that looks like in everyday practice, and I know for me, when I'm spending more time with the Lord, spending more time Sabbathing, doing spiritual retreats, I am way more peaceful in the way that I approach absolutely everything. I'm less angry. I'm less angsty. I less run beyond myself and try to do the work in my power and my strength, and I'm a bit more reliant on God and just a bit more chilled. Not apathetic. I think those two things, I think they're different things. But just a bit more trusting in God for absolutely everything. It looks like that, yeah.
Do you find that to be more sustainable as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a reason why there is a reason why the busy world that we live in is increasing the prevalence of anxiety, depression, and angst in this anxious world that we live in. And it's not so much the presence of, housing crisis and all of those things as much as they are. I think it's actually that we're failing to stop. Now, there are medical conditions that I don't want to deny the chemical realities that go on in our brain and all of that kind of stuff. But, pastor burnout, Christian burnout, all of those things, I think, are helped dramatically by hitting the pause button and spending time with God. I don't think you can avoid it completely sometimes. There are just certain things that happen that, can make you anxious, that can cause burnout, that can cause that outside of your control. But by and large, God's right? Like he is. He's good, and he wants good for us. And he's created a world and he's created systems and rhythms that are there actually for our benefit and for our good. So, yeah.
And I think that's why I love Week Away so much. Is we were talking about this on the Hudson actually said this on the Chip Lunch podcast that we did to drive down a week away.
Yeah,
is that it's a spiritual circuit breaker.
Yeah,
almost like we get to do this. I'm loving just sitting here in the sun.
It's quite delightful.
It really is. Isn't it?
Yeah,
and I think. Yeah, I wonder, this is kind of, I think, part of resting in the Lord, like to your question, Ethan. Like, I feel like we are doing that right now. We're just having this relaxed conversation, but there is some form of spiritual formation going on here as we discuss this, because we're just talking about stuff that impacts our faith and how we live it out as well. Can I ask you a question, though, Lee, is that we often leave the speaker up to the speaker to decide what they talk about. Why did you choose sanctification? Because we've termed it Hearts Made Holy.
Hearts Made Holy.
Based on the apparel stuff that we did for this week away.
Yes.
Which actually worked really well, of course.
Yeah,
but why
totally.
did you choose that topic of sanctification?
Yeah, partly I spoke with Stu and I was like, hey, here's a few ideas and things that I'm thinking about. Here's some things that I've done in the past. What do you think would be the best for Soli's crew? And growing them and as we chatted that through, it was this whole idea of sanctification. For me, though, the reason why I offered that up as a suggestion was that I think probably way back in 2018, I just saw I saw a lot of people burning out, people getting angsty in and around a bunch of things regarding the Christian life, and a lot of the books and the things that were written more in our kind of sphere of influence, or time, in our time rather, were more from people who sat outside of that Reformed and evangelical camp. And not to say that we can't read things. I think it's actually profoundly helpful to read outside of our camp. But it just meant that people were uber suspicious of talking about holiness, spiritual formation, and a whole bunch of different things there that way back in 2018, I was like, I think this is a big thing. And then I read a book called The Infinite Journey by a guy called Davis from the UK. And the opening of his book basically said, as Reformed evangelicals, we have been so focused on justification by faith. And it's like, and mission and evangelism, which is kind of like the marks of evangelicalism, right? And we have actually started to let holiness take a back step in our lives. And he basically just posed this question using Hudson Taylor's quote, which was, we attempt great things for God and expect great things from God. And he basically said, what if we did that in terms of our sanctification? What if we actually had that prayer for our hearts? How would that impact the way that we lived? And how would that impact the mission in this world? And then he lays out a whole bunch of different ways to do that. So when I read that, it was like, that's what I've been wrestling with. That's what I've been thinking with or thinking about. And then a lot of it just came out of my own personal experience as well, particularly as a younger Christian. all of the things that I wrestled with in terms of my own personal holiness. You know, like now I've been a Christian for 27 years, and there are still things that just rear their ugly heads, and I go, man, and I haven't dealt with that, or I thought I had dealt with that, and it's come back again, and it's frustrating. It brings shame, it brings guilt, and I just think this side of eternity, we just have so much that we need to keep on applying and speaking the gospel of grace into in our lives. And so that's how that was the background as to why I chose to talk on these things at the camp.
It's really fun though. Ethan, do you have I thought you were looking at your notes to...
I was, and then I thought I had a quote that I was like, yeah, this is cool, but I don't have that.
Yeah,
that's cool. So then I suppose we can move on. I actually would like to be interested to hear that we talked in your last episode, sorry. I'm sorry. I went to bed very late last night, so I'm struggling a little bit.
If I yawn, it's because of that. It's not because it's not interesting.
We were up.
That's
talking,
okay.
We were up
that's
talking
fine.
about high school stories.
Yeah,
quite a bit last night. So that's what we were doing. But I didn't go to bed until 1:15.
It's the third night in a row I've gone to bed at 2.
Yeah, you've been going hard.
I wouldn't be functional if that was the case.
Yeah. But you said in the first talk on that Saturday talk that you only had 2 hours sleep.
Yeah.
What was happening there?
Yeah. I've got sleep apnea, and
right.
but the bed that I'm in, blinking makes the bed squeak, you know, so like it's very, very noisy, and and I never really sleep that well when I'm like in a room with like lots of people and whatever, even if it's to my family. Like, so,
I hear that. I get that.
Yeah.
What,
that's why I've been going to bed so late, is because I'm in a room with 15 dudes.
Yeah.
And it's heaps easier to sleep in a room with 15 dudes when you're so exhausted you have to sleep.
Yeah. I would believe that. Absolutely.
It's great.
Do you have anything that actually works for you when you go to sleep? Like something that I've found lately, like sometimes I find it hard to go to sleep, and I've found that, you know, sometimes you're ruminating on something or whatever, and I find that I just letting things go and saying, oh God, and just praying to God about things.
Yeah.
Does that help for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the times, you know, I mean, my sleep is not it's not because my mind is busy, but it's not often because my mind's busy. It's just I don't know, I've always struggled to sleep, and but the times that I think I'm more restful and the times that I sleep most is like I bullet journal. And different people have got different ways of doing it, but for me, downloading everything that's in my brain at the beginning of the day and seeing the number of things that I've got to do in the week written down on paper, and actually going through the process of writing that is really cathartic for me, and it's very concrete, and I go, I cannot achieve all of these things, and I certainly can't do it in my own power. And so I have a bit of a rhythm where like at the beginning of each day I download stuff, and I pray about it, and I just give it over to the Lord, and I go, hey God, you're in control of this, and then at the end of the day as well, like before I clock off, so to speak, I try to do the same. Now, I haven't been heaps good at doing that recently, but those rhythms have been really helpful for me. And then I actually often listen to like a 10-minute nighttime Bible podcast.
Okay.
That's it's called Lectio 365, and it's like texts from some of the older spiritual disciplines of praying in the morning, afternoon, and evening. And one of the prayers that they keep on praying is just, you know, like over and over again, just Spirit, like God, help me to help my heart to be restful. Help me to trust in you, and I just find that is really, really helpful. So yeah.
I like that.
So I think my sleep is better when I'm doing those helpful spiritual rhythms in resting in the Lord. At other times it helps me to rest at night time. And I think you can tell a lot when you close the door at night of the things that you're anxious about, the things that you're worried about. And it's just a great opportunity to give them up to God, and He's good. And He helps us with that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think I've only really gone into that pattern perhaps in the last year or so. And I think it makes a huge difference to that, and I use magnesium spray.
Magnesium spray, lavender. I've tried all the things.
Yeah. It's funny with magnesium, and I don't know if this is that interesting, but I can feel the moment that it's kicked in.
Yeah.
So it takes like 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I'm like, usually I'll read something that's not super stimulating.
Yes.
Whether it's either fiction or non-fiction, but not something crazy. And then I'm like, I go to sleep, I'm not going to sleep. Like I'm tired. I'm like, I'm just not going to sleep. And then all of a sudden I just feel like something relaxes.
Yeah.
And then I know that like the magnesium has kicked in and I'm like, oh, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like this,
that's
like
so
a
good.
placebo thing probably of going, oh, you will go to sleep now. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And then you relax anyway and you go to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's,
well, even just having the regular, I'm not good at it. Like I'm not good at it because I'm not good at doing the same thing over and over again. Like it's not the way that I'm wired, but I'm actually just doing the same thing over and over again and having a ritual before you go to bed is really meant to work. I think it does. I think I've seen that, but I suck at doing it. Yeah.
The other thing is screens, right? You can't be looking at screens minimum half hour before bed. Yeah. But my wife gets into bed and does the crossword on her phone.
Yeah.
And then she's out like a light.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Catherine goes to sleep very, very quickly. And she nearly looks self-righteous when she's doing it. And it's like, and we've been comparing, we've got Apple Watches, we've been comparing our sleep rhythms. Yeah. And mine looks like waking up, if you add all the times that I wake up, I'm waking up 2 to 3 hours a night. Mm. And Catherine, she goes to sleep for 9 hours and she gets 8 hours, 58 minutes sleep. And it's and she just goes, ha.
Yeah. But Karen's the same. She's out like a light. It's so frustrating. It might be a gift. You can fall asleep quickly. Anyway, we can move on from sleep.
I don't fall asleep quickly.
You don't? I thought you did.
No, I have to listen. So I've just got these new headphones that are also a sleep mask.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll listen to an audiobook to fall asleep.
Mm. Yeah.
Otherwise, I think, and it just keeps me up.
Yeah. Mm. David Suchet.
Okay.
Audio Bible on the Bible app.
Yep.
Awesome. It's good for falling out. So I'll often listen to the Bible even at night time, and then when I wake up in the middle of the night, if I'm feeling anxious, it just sometimes is on the right psalm, or it's sometimes so that's pretty cool as well.
That's cool. So it's been awesome having you do these talks, and as I was saying, I think when I service led the other day, I just love your passion to preaching the gospel, and I really appreciate how excited you are to share it when you get up you're a week away. Yeah. But I suppose the next question is, what happens to you now once you've departed week away? So you were a member of Soul Revival for a while after established church finished up, and then you came to Soul Revival for a while, but then you've decided to move to Queensland. Yeah. So what's the plan going forward? Yeah.
So we moved to Queensland on the 10th of January, so we're kind of just slightly over 6 months now, and we moved up there for the purpose of planting a new church in the south part of the Gold Coast with a church called Liberti Church. That it's been a church that's been around there for 10 years, and they've been part of planting 3 churches already. And when we started exploring that, we looked like the vision, the mission, the values, all of that was so aligned with who we were as a couple and the kind of rhythms that we live out as a family. And we were like, there's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel or just do something by ourselves. There's something here at this church that is beautiful, it's growing, it's gospel focused, they make much of Jesus, and we need to see more and more of that just spreading throughout Australia. Churches like Soli's growing, planting, and so we were convinced that in Australia we need to see more churches planted to reach more people, and that's why we moved up to the Gold Coast. And the first 3 months up there was really just about getting to know the area, doing a bit of missiology, like understanding what people believe, what their view of church is, what their rhythms are, what their gospels are, for their own lives, and then also building trust with Liberti Church as well. So preaching, serving on teams, just starting to share our hearts. So that was like the first 3 months, and then now we've just finished. Like the next 3 months was all about getting assessed. So we're planting with Acts 29. And we previously had planted with Geneva Push and Reach Australia, so we got reassessed with Acts 29. That's a huge process and a necessary one as well, where they dig into your family life, your theology, your spiritual rhythms, your evangelistic fervor, and all of the things that we might say are core competencies to planting a church that under God will, God willingly, be a healthy and multiplying church in the future. It doesn't guarantee that, but going through that process is really helpful. So that took a decent amount of time, and then we're now entering into what I'm calling the gathering and recruiting phase of a new church that we're going to be planting out in October. So 12th of October, we'll have our soft launch down in Chugan in the south part of the Gold Coast, and then we'll public launch in January. So
okay, so it's kind of like a year-long preparation to get to planning.
Yeah. Effectively, like we initially thought we were going to be planting probably more like January or February, but as we got boots on the ground and as we started thinking it through, like we like even a month ago, we had something like 17 people or whatever already on our launch team. And it's like, well, we can't wait the whole way until February next year, like, and do nothing here. And we're currently at 25 people on our launch team, like 25 adults. And God's been really kind in that, really good broad range of people. And so as we just sat with that, and we looked at, right, okay, what's going on in the life of Liberti Church? What's going on in the life of the Gold Coast? We need to pull the timeline back a little bit. So that's why we're going with a soft launch in October, and then public launch in January. So yeah, when we get back, it's going to be like running. Like I thought maybe I had a bit of time and I could make sure that everything was all planned and prepared on paper, and I could present it to people neatly, and that's not going to be the case anymore. There is a plan, there is a vision, we've got a philosophy, we know what we're doing, but when we hit the ground, when we get back up to the Gold Coast, we're going to be getting straight into it. So meeting with core team, all of that kind of stuff.
How do you go about asking someone to be a part of a church plant?
Yeah, that's my question too.
It's like this. Ethan, would you like to be part of a church plant? No, it's a little bit more than that. It's like a little bit different because we didn't know anybody up there. So first and foremost, what I said to people, like I just have caught up with lots of people for coffee, and I'm like, look, I want to get to know you, and I want to love you, and I want you to know that I am not just meeting up with you because I've got an agenda, but because we're convinced of the mission in Australia. Like, I mean, there's 26.9 people in Australia and at least 24 million people who are lost outside of Jesus, right? Like we ought to be convicted of that. We ought to be compelled by the love of Jesus to be the kind of churches that want to call people to put their trust in God, to see who He is, what He has done for them, and so because that's what I'm passionate about, you know, I'm going to talk to you about that, absolutely. But I'm very upfront about that at the start, and I want to hear as well people's stories and the things that they're passionate about and the things that you know, what's going on in their lives. But ultimately, when I've actually asked people to be part of the launch team, it really has flown out of just that natural conversation, but going, I think not only could this be a really good thing for the gospel, I actually think this also could be a really good thing for you, and you would contribute. So it's selling the vision, it's helping them to see how they can contribute to that vision and what it will look like. So it's not enough to say, just run with me on this wild ride and we've got no idea where we're going. Like I mean, that's okay. And some people follow that. And that's what I did at Establish in the early days, right? It was like, we're going here, not sure how we're getting there, but come with me. And people did. And that was a real honor and scary. But I think it's best when you give people a cause, you help them to see how they contribute to that cause. Yeah. And you then actually help them to see how you will care for and be committed to them in them growing to be more like Jesus in and through that process. So that's what I try to do. I think I do it quite naturally, so it just happens. Awesome. Yeah.
What if I was just a person that you'd met up with, we've had coffee and you've gone, hey, Ethan, do you want to be a part of my church plant?
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, I'd love to. What do I have to do when I'm there? Like, what does it look like for the layperson to to be a launch team member?
Getting them ready to do ministry straight off the bat.
And in some ways that's partly shaped by the model that you have and the expectations that you have of the launch team, or some people call it a core team. So even that difference in language will shape what's expected. I use the phrase launch team because I want people on that launch team, like we've got a guy who is a Northern Irish guy, Jamie, who is newly a Christian a couple of months ago. There's another guy on there who's not yet a Christian. He's still exploring Jesus. And I want that to be part of the DNA and part of the tapestry of who we are from the outset. That's why we're planting. We're not planting to start another gathering somewhere else so that people can consume another thing that's new for a while. We're planting because we're convinced that planting is a really good way to help us reach new people and help new people come to know Jesus. So I've used the phrase launch team rather than core team, and that means that I'm quite broad in the kind of people and what the expectation is. However, I think there are a few really, really core things that I want to see. So let's just talk about like having people who are not yet Christians is a slight anomaly, like in that. But what I want is, I want that people have got a heart and a passion for Jesus. So they love Jesus. They have got a heart and a passion for the lost. Now, when I say have, I say that quite generally. It doesn't need to be to the same extent as me, because I believe that as we grow together, that we'll keep on pointing people to Jesus in such a way that, God willing, by His Spirit, grows their conviction to that. And I think that being part of a launch team is really good. But I want them to be convinced of that. I want them to be compelled by the mission. And I want them to be willing then to commit to the vision, mission, and values of who we are and what that looks like. And I think a really easy way of thinking about that is, are you willing to give your time, your talent, and your treasure to see this new thing come off?
Your time, your talent, and your treasure. I love that.
Yeah.
How do you balance that with, I'm sure your leadership team are obviously okay with that. You're recruiting people for this launch team within your church.
Yeah.
And being aware that you are going to take some people out of that to plan a new gathering.
Yes.
Like I said, your leaders are cool with that. They know that you're doing that.
Yeah.
But how do you balance it with not kind of cannibalizing or taking away from what's already there?
I'm listening. I'm just going to put a jumper on.
Yeah, okay. That's a great question, and we've had lots of chats about that. Let me just say something about Liberty in general. Like Adam, who is the lead pastor, Adam Ramsey. Adam is so committed to church planting, and actually the way that we think about this, he's just done it way more than I have, right? But he's so committed to church planting, and they've done it, and their measure of a good and healthy church is a church that multiplies and plants more churches. So they have that part and parcel of who they are and their vision.
Yeah, it's part of what they're doing. Yeah.
And that means that they have already walked through a number of times through the pain and the grief and the cost of planting more churches,
of losing people to do that.
Yeah, that's right. And I know that this is only a language thing. You're saying losing people.
That's probably not a good way to put it.
No, but that's what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Because these are people who are part of our family and we love them, and so it does feel like a loss, and in many ways it is. But I think thinking about commissioning them out is probably a more helpful way to think about that, and there can still be grief attached to that, but we're commissioning them out to go and do something that we're all convinced of is a good and great thing. So because that's the foundation there, it's actually made it quite easy to be able to do that. And Adam and the team there they've championed, and they've said, you need to consider going. And we've, we looked through the list of people in church, and we worked through some of that stuff together and highlighted names, and we basically just had an open policy where if there were people on there that were serving in certain areas, or we just felt, maybe like it'd be really good to talk about that, I'd highlight them on the spreadsheet and we'd have a chat. And we go, hey, what do you think? Yeah, and there have been some names, right? There have been some names that Adam and I have talked about, and I can just see the pain in his face. I can see this is going to be a huge loss, but yet the courage of Adam is one where he'll still sit there and go, yep, you should ask them, because he's so committed to the gospel, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. And then outside of that, it's actually having a chat with the whole team, and so we want leaders to come and be part of that, and we know that will leave a gap. So we've been strategically thinking through how do we help that person as a leader to replace themselves, which is something that we want to see happening in leadership at all levels across the board anyway. So I actually think that that's a competency within leadership that we want to see happening, so that we can keep on replicating and multiplying the mission. And then there's just life things that happen, right, where sometimes people have to step out of leadership. So over these next 3 months, as we march towards October, the people that are in leadership and key roles within Liberty, we're going to be helping them hand things on well, champion that well, honour them and what they're doing, and then as well replace them within there as well. And we're not going to do that perfectly, but I think having that heart and desire, because one of the reasons why a church like Liberty can plant and like Soul Revival is that you want to maintain the health in the mother church. Like that needs to happen. But sometimes I think we can become too protectionistic, and we don't take enough risks in sending people out. Like it's pretty much documented. Actually, no, we can fact check this. What I have heard in the statistics is that actually when you plant, it really helps to raise the bar for the sending church, and you start to get people stepping up into leadership roles that you wouldn't have had otherwise, but also as well they're championing that. Now obviously the way that you talk about that is important. Obviously the reason the reason for that is important, but and it doesn't always go well, but in general, if it's managed well, I think it brings health to the mothership. So
I see.
Yeah.
Does that? So tell us about the area that you're planning in Queensland. Southern Gold Coast. Yeah. And I heard you mention Burleigh Heads. It's in that area.
Yeah. Right? Yep. So Gold Coast is, pretty much most people that will listen to the podcast will know where it is. Southeast Queensland, just on the border of New South Wales, a relatively new city. So it's currently a city of about 660,000 people, but it's actually it's one of the fastest growing urban economies in Australia. It is going to be it's going to see the most growth out of any non-capital city over the next kind of like 20 years in Australia, and it's going to be the fastest growing city in Queensland over the next 20 years. Now, Brisbane is still a bigger city, but percentage growth wise, the Gold Coast is probably going to grow nearly double in size over the next 20 years. And one of the interesting things about the city is that actually the mayor of the city, Tom Tate, he's a Christian guy, but he has got a really good vision for seeing being on the front foot with infrastructure and building a city that he says where young people don't need to move away. So we're an aspirational city. We're a growing city. We're a city where people are moving to rather than moving out of, and that actually creates lots of opportunities for the gospel. So that south part of the Gold Coast, from roughly Burleigh Heads down to, and I'm including Tweed Heads in this, even though it's not Gold Coast.
Yeah.
There's around about 127,000 people. There are 26 churches there, and even if there were 1,000 people in all of those churches, there's at least 100,000 people who don't know Jesus, and there's just a significant change. Like the south part of the Gold Coast is distinct to the north part of, Surfer's Paradise. That's kind of like north part of the Gold Coast. Now, it's not all that the Gold Coast is, but that's the north part. The south part is way more surfy. It's way more like the Shire, actually. And then it's been largely influenced by that more hipster, hinterlandy, Byron Bay type
Which
people.
is not very far from that.
It's not very far from there at all. So it's a changing and distinct demographic there, and it's going to see a lot of growth over the next little while. And like when you walk around Currumbin and some of those areas, the tagline that you hear people saying most is, "This is not what it once was." You know, like people want things to stay relatively similar, but as an area, it is going to distinctly change over the next 20 years, and everybody's gearing up for that. So so that's why that's one of the reasons why we're planting in the south part of the Gold Coast. The other reason that we're planting there is that we want to see more churches planted, and so we don't know, but under God, we're praying and we're planning for planting down into that Tweed area. Into the Kingscliff area, which is a significant greenfields area in the northern New South Wales. And then, God willing, we're also praying and think about how we might plant down into Byron area as well. So that whole region is quite void of vibrant gospel, healthy churches that are on mission, and we need to see more of it as more people move into the area.
Oh, you sound pretty excited about it, though.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have moved the whole family without being excited about it and convinced that, that it's actually a good thing. So,
how has the family gone with the move? Because
thanks for asking.
Especially your crew, they got that. I feel like you weren't here at Sorrowville for a very long time, but your kids especially got very integrated.
Oh
into part of the church, and they were good friends with my kids, for example. And plenty of other people at church. So how did they go on having to move up there? Yeah,
we love you guys. Joshy still pipes into your small group.
He's a member of my community group.
On a Monday without fail. No matter what's going on, he'll attempt to be there. And look, there's been a remarkable act of God's grace that in many ways this has went really, really smoothly, and God had answered a lot of prayers before we even moved there, like that they would have good friends. And Adam's kids, one of the other pastor's kids, he's also called Adam, we call him Zazu, and a bunch of kids in the church, like they came away from a couple of visits up there going, we feel like we've known these people for years. And I think that's because not only were our visions for church similar, but the way that we lived out what we believed in our families was very similar as well. Like, we're quite different people, quite different families, but at the same time, that was a real blessing that they could say, we've got good friends here. So that helped. Still missed people back here, still do, but it would have been a lot harder if they didn't have good friends up there already. So I think it's a real mark of God's grace in answering our prayers in that space. But I think probably the other thing that has been a real blessing this time, it's actually been a real joy. Like they knew why we were moving, because the rhythms of our family have been one where we want to live out the gospel together on everyday mission like that. That's what we want to live and breathe as a family. And so I think even though they couldn't articulate it, I think they saw it very much as an extension just of who we are. But one of the things that I've noticed is we've actually moved up there, is that they're really grasping the vision of what it is that we're wanting to do. And we had this real beautiful moment where we were sitting around with the first few people on the launch team, and the kids were there, and we're asking them what is it that they're excited about and passionate about.
Great.
And hearing that just brought joy to my soul. Like it was just so good. They're like, we want to be involved, we want to be there, we're not just made to be there. And I don't know how that happened, to be honest, apart from the grace of God. So
well, they're beautiful kids. I had a great chat with Sophia and Grace the other night about devices and how the internet impacts them and their friends and stuff. And
awesome.
but there's like you mentioned in the talk today that you don't read anywhere near as much as your kids, and I can tell that your kids read for sure. They're so articulate and can really hold a great conversation, and I really appreciate that. I think you have done a number of things right.
Thank you. I think you mean Catherine is the one who's disciplined. She's the one who has imparted that love. Like I read a lot. I can't read for fun. I just find it really, really hard. But they. Oh man, I'm praying that they far surpass me in their love and their knowledge of Jesus, and I think they do a lot of, like in a lot of things. But look, like there is a uniqueness. You'll know this, right, Ethan? Growing up as a pastor's kid, you're exposed to more adult conversations and all of that kind of stuff. So, some of it's just part and parcel of that dynamic as well. So,
I also see though you and Catherine kind of similar to my wife and I, that we're both from a non-Christian family, as are you guys. And you kind of like, you have this wonderful gift that we talk about of Jesus dying on the cross for us. And we want to them to know that. And that we didn't have that when we were first growing up. I think that's the thing that I've been reflecting on even this week away. Is that you have kids. Like you're just like, I just want to give you the growing up into the gospel in the way that I didn't get to. And I think that's really special. And I can see you guys doing that. I think that's part of what we're talking about here, is that you're trying to do that. And our prayer, it's on my tattoo. I might have talked about this in the last podcast episode, I'm not sure, but my tattoo's based around the psalm where it's like, blessed is the person who's planted by the streams of living water, and we have always prayed some form of iteration of that, where it's like, hey God, we're praying that our kids and that our families become Christians, and that you use us to be the first in a long line of Murrays who love and know Jesus. Now we don't know, but so my prayers are far beyond our own kids, and we're trying to instill that in our kids as well, and go, hey, we want to see you following Jesus, we want to see your kids following Jesus, we want to see you living that out, and we pray that, and slowly but surely God's been answering that prayer. It makes like a huge generational change.
And there are stories of that, right? Like, there's somebody in our there's a young guy called Wade in our launch team. Young, he's not young, he just turned 30, I'm just getting old. And he's joined our launch team. He's got a South African background, and I think he's attesting to 2 or 3 generations where everyone in his family are all Christians. And I'm like, that is beautiful. That cool. is awesome. It's not common, but that is beautiful. So yeah.
Well, it's going to be a little less beautiful. The sun has gone behind
the sun has gone, and it is very cold.
I'm starting to shiver.
It got really cold. As soon as that sun left, I was like...
and you could feel it, but you could feel it slowly going too as the world turns. You could feel the sun going down. So that's not a bad time.
My hands are going blue.
Not a bad time to finish up. Ethan, do you want to? You got some final words to wrap up? Well, it's been a lovely podcast.
It's been beautiful, and and we love and miss you guys, but also we love that you guys are doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's been really beautiful having Josh regularly hanging out with us on a Monday. And one of the things we get to do whenever he is able to make it is ask for prayer points for you guys, and it's been really good to be regularly praying for you. Is there something that for those that don't get to regularly hang out with you guys, is there something we could be praying for?
Yeah. Well, probably one thing to say is maybe we can pop this in the show notes or something.
Sure.
We have like a form that you can sign up to get prayer points for us. We're really like I really want to see our partnership continuing, and like if I can say this, although we're wrapping up, right? Like I think it's something like according to NCLS research, 68% of churches in Australia are in decline, right?
Yeah.
If we're just to maintain status quo with population growth, we need to plant 198 churches a year. A year.
Wow.
If we want to see the curve changing, we need to plant at least 300 churches a year. Now, how are we going to do that? I think one of the ways that we do that is by inspiring a generation of young people to live all out for Jesus and to actually partner more with churches that are planting, that are doing things like Soul Revival are doing, that giving it a crack, trying different ways of doing things. And so I want to pray that our partnership is one that keeps on spurring one another on to plant more churches. And a bunch of you guys will not be able to afford to live in Sydney, just putting it out there. Gold Coast is a wee bit cheaper, so we might even get a bit of cross-pollination happening as well, and so that would be cool. But pray for that. Pray that, like, I'm not interested in rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic in terms of just having a bunch of Christians move from one place to another. Although that's not always a bad thing, right? There are lots of good reasons why that happens. But our prayer is really that we see many, many freed people in the south part of the Gold Coast. We're seeing lots of changes in the spiritual climate in Australia that's making me think that we could be entering into a phase where God just moves in a way that we've not seen before in Australia. And I'm praying that that's the case. I'm praying that we see floods of people becoming Christians and a revival in our nation. Like, I grew up down the road from the genesis of the Irish and Scots revivals. So I've been a benefactor of that in the UK. So pray for that. Pray that we actually see people becoming Christians, that we connect with all of the people who have got big questions, who are wrestling with life and who are ripe to know the Saviour that made them and that saved them. So pray for that.
Well, it's been a massive encouragement to have you on this podcast, but also to be doing Week Away with us. It was kind of cool. Like, you didn't head off in January, but to get you guys to come back.
It's not like you've been gone for very long. It's really nice that you're back.
But it was like this feels like actually a really cool farewell, or like at least, some kind of sharing of gospel ministry, gospel resources that you come in to encourage us and to build us up in the talks, and you've definitely done that for me personally. And I think it's really lovely that your whole family came to, and for the whole time.
Thank you.
Think that's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
I don't think they would have let me say no. They were like, Dad, you have to say yes to this. And when we changed the timeline, I was like, oh man, this is going to be really hard to do. And they're like, you can't say no. And so, but no, it's a real pleasure. Like, it's a real pleasure and joy, and I get just as much out of it. Like, obviously, it's a lot of work and whatever, but man, isn't that work worth it? Like Jesus has done everything for us. He changes everything. Why don't we kind of do big and hard things for him?
Well, you've given up all your time to prepare the talks and do the talks and everything. You've given up time to be on this podcast. So
it's awesome.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So
thank you.
And I'm sure we'll have you back on again at another point when you establish your Liberti campus. And it's
we should even do one from the Gold Coast, as in even online. It'd be awesome to dig into planting a little bit more and some of the stuff that we're seeing there.
And what you've learned from that in the last since you've done it, so that'd be really cool.
Yeah, totally. Because I'll be an expert then.
That's how it works.
You don't need to be an expert anymore when you do podcasts. You just
that's it. You just
need to have an opinion.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, Ethan, thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
You've been unreal. Lee, you've been unreal. Just
You've been
as
amazing.
much. Thank you very much.
Allegedly.
You guys are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that's been listening or watching. We appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this gorgeous view. It did get a bit cold towards the end. Thank you to Hudson, who's standing there freezing behind the camera.
He's got his hood up. He's all right.
Yeah, well, he's looking a bit blue there in the face. But yeah, you're awesome, and you guys are awesome. Everyone listening's awesome, and we always finish with a one way. So thank you, and one way.